Bagnaya's lead though now over a second, 1.1 through the third sector. He's already pulled out 3 tenths over Acosta, and as you can see, that queue is building up behind the 73 of Alex Marquez.
Once again, just running that wider line to pick up a late apex on the exit 15. Just look how he got the squirt of acceleration on Aldeguer. It looked like Aldeguer was going to pass him on the inside, didn't he, going through that final corner? But it's just the different lines, the different approaches from the two Ducati GP24 riders. On board then with Alex, looking back to the 37 of Pedro Acosta, who's tipped off there at turn 2 earlier on this weekend. Certainly can't relax here at the moment, can he, Acosta? This is not a given third place here, because Juan Mir behind him still doing 58.60s. Acosta having to respond here to this barrage coming from Mir behind him. Acosta just finished first lap with a sprint at 158.669. In fact, Alex, Acosta and Mir all doing 58.6s on that last lap.
Bagnaia is in a completely different race to everyone else at the moment, doing low 58. We remind you, Pecco Bagnaia was second last in the sprint last Saturday in Australia. Only Michele Pirro, the Ducati test rider, was behind him. Fast forward 7 days and Bagnaia is going from the back to the very front.
32 seconds. Yes, 32 seconds. He finished behind about second, the checker flag in that sprint in qualifying last weekend. This is textbook Bagnaia, isn't it? Get a dynamic launch away from pole position, get clear road ahead of you, and that's it. It's so often he just checks out off into the distance. If there's nobody else disrupting his rhythm, disrupting his braking markers, well, we know that he has got the metronomic consistency to just break the pack. And that's exactly what he's done early on here. His advantage now is up to 1.6 seconds as we tick through Sector 3 on lap 4 of 10.
On the play out now, Pecco Bagnaia would regain third place in the World Championship from Marco Bezzecchi, who is not scoring at the moment. What would also happen as it stands is that Alex Marquez would clinch the runner-up spot in the World Championship. As long as Bagnaia's leading, second is enough.
Gap's creeping down between Acosta and Mir for the final place on the podium. Bezzecchi now in a good fight with Marini. He's going to go in wide there, isn't he? Marco Bezzecchi just cutting and sticking through the inside line. Was the number 10 on the factory Honda, so Bezzecchi doesn't have to do all that hard work over again. This is the battle for 10th place. Espargaro at the moment, replacing Vinales, is in the last point scoring position in this sprint. Bagnaia is going to have an advantage very soon of 2 seconds in this sprint. Acosta has been back into the 59s. First time we've seen Acosta then in the 59. He's the only rider in the top 6, albeit by not much, that has dropped into the 59s, and that's why Mir just Mir now right time over the line. Mir was 4 tenths behind Acosta. Goes up. Oh, Mir's crashed. Mir's gone down. Well, unfortunately, once again, Alberto Puig and the HRC squad with their head in their hands. They rock back in the chairs and they can't believe it, as once again, just sliding off the edge of that front tyre goes Mir. He got the power on coming out of turn 9, just as he was making a big threat for Acosta and Alex ahead of him. Sideways once again he was going into that 9th corner. Unfortunately, spectacular on the way in, on the floor on the way out.
So Mir out on 4th place, and it was a 4th that could have become 3rd, if not 2nd. He will look to go again tomorrow, once again showing his pace, but unfortunately for Mir, as we've seen a lot in Honda colours, not seeing the checkered flag. So Bezzecchi now fighting for a point in this sprint. Both he and Marini have now passed Zarco, who started this lap in 8th place. He's now out of the points in 10th, so it's Espargaro who's now 7th, Marini 8th, and Bez in the points in 9th.
Some battle this is as Zarco tries to retaliate on Bezzecchi as they run down to the first corner. Bez just too strong on the front end of that factory. A brilliant big gang right behind Espargaro as Bastianini then now goes through on Gian Antonio, who's having a real poor sprint in the Digia. Started in 8th place, he's now been dumped back down to 12th place. Yellow flags out in the first sector. There's Miguel, who's gone down fourth time in the last 6. He started in 16th place, so Oliveira down and out then at the first turn.
Running in P18 when he crashed. He was at the back of the train, which is all behind Paul Espargaro. There's a massive queue of riders. Here it is. Paul Espargaro leading it. Mir into the pits then. He is out in the sprint. So at around half distance, Mir crashes out. So Alex Marquez now has got quite a bit of breathing space because Acosta, still in the 59s, is now the thick end of a second behind. And the big threat of Mir is now also taken out of the equation.
Pains me to say this, but we have to. It's a 44th Honda DNF in sprints and Grand Prix for Joan Mir. 44, which is quite a remarkable number when you actually think about it, and pause to think about that high number as Bezzecchi once again has a raid on the inside of Marini. The two Italians go side by side as they drop down towards the 200 km an hour, turn 12. Bezzecchi has got the upper hand on this occasion, so he can now set about chasing down Espargaro. That's in 7th place, so Bez then now up into 8th. Good rescue job this from Bezzecchi, having started 14th. I think the best he probably could have hoped for was around the sort of the back end of the top 6, which is pretty much where he finds himself fighting right now.
Salvaging some useful points. There won't be enough at the moment to keep Pecco Bagnaia behind him in the championship. 12 points for the sprint winner. At the moment for Bez in 8th place, that will be only 2 points. So Bagnaia will go 2 ahead of Bez for 3rd in the World Championship. And Alex Marquez still on course for that runner-up spot in the championship. Bagnaia's pace now dropping into the high 158. He actually wasn't the fastest rider last time round. That was Fermin Aldeguer, who's catching Acosta quickly.
It's going to be a nightmare in this big battle. This big battle that involves Paul Espargaro, Bezzecchi, Marini, Zarco, Bastianini, Gian Antonio and Ralph Fernandez. Just the extreme heat and humidity that the conditions provide here in Malaysia. The heat coming off at the bikes that are ahead of you on circuit, your own bike, and of course you have to contend with ballooning front tyre temperature and pressure as well. No mean feat to manage that in that real intense battle. Here is Bagnaia then, your runaway sprint victor, or your sprint leader, I should say. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Pecco Bagnaia, we're hoping he is the victor. In a few laps time, he's comfortably miles clear of Alex, 2.2 seconds up the road. Costa is struggling, hasn't got the pace at the moment to go with the Gresini Ducati ahead of him, and he might have further trouble breaking through another Gresini Ducati behind him, because Aldeguer is starting to chase down the 37.
Yeah, he's got it all on here to hold on to 3rd place. As Acosta, he was back in the mid-59 last time around. 58.8 for Aldeguer has now brought him right into play for potentially a double sprint podium for Gresini. Yeah, Pecco Bagnaia will not be counting his chickens just yet, particularly given what happened to him last year. He has got a sprint score to settle with Sepang, hasn't he?
This yo-yo form from Bagnaia is so perplexing, isn't it? It's so hard to fathom and really get a clear idea of just what is going on at the moment. Bagnaia, 2.1 seconds clear than he is of Alex Marquez. Pedro Acosta at the moment still holding on to that 3rd place. I'm not too sure for how much longer though, because Aldeguer, you can just see how much time Aldeguer was able to gobble up in the braking zone for that turn 15. And that passed with a little bit better rear grip, certainly better drive grip. Aldeguer certainly will be lining up a late attack here on Acosta. These two have had some pretty heated battles so far in 2025.
Aldeguer's now the only rider in the 58s on the racetrack. Bagnaia's doing 59.1s. Whether he's got more pace up his sleeve, we'll never know. He doesn't really need it at this stage with a 2.5 second lead. But Aldeguer doing a 158.8. Bagnaia 3/10 even slower than that, and he took another 6/10 out of Pedro Acosta. We know the 37 has got quite neat defensive skills, but he's going to need all of them here.
Giving those successive sprint podium for Ralph Fernandez, that has never looked like materialising, has it at all? On the sprint ceremony in Mandalika and Phillip Island at the moment, Ralph Fernandez is a long way off the pace, down in 13th place. Almost 13 seconds he is back of Bagnaia. Aldeguer is coming, isn't it? It is coming, surely. Now we know that Acosta, well, he's so good at defending, he's so good at blocking, but can even Acosta resist this from Aldeguer? He's going to dart to the inside line. Down we go into turn 9. We've seen how strong Aldeguer is on the brakes into this bottom gear. Tight left-hander, easy as you like. Nothing that Acosta can do about that. Aldeguer then seizes the bronze medal position.
Aldier got such a run at him through 8 that Pedro Acosta had absolutely nothing by way of defence of that. As soon as Aldier seized the inside line and was able to pull right up alongside him before they even braked for turn 9, Pedro Acosta knew the game was up. Can Acosta now hold on to 4th place? Frankie Morbidelli behind him is also doing mid-59, so that should be the limit of the damage for Pedro Acosta, but a sprint podium has now passed him by.
It's simple, isn't it? Acosta has the talent, he doesn't have the tools, does he, to fight at the front of these MotoGP battles. So often you see him 4th or 5th places. He's getting a little bit frustrated here with Valencia Acosta. You can understand this, because at the moment he's at the mercy of Luca Marini's crash. That's been a wretched sprint for the factory Honda team, with Joan Mir crashing out and ultimately retiring. Turn 14, Luca Marini's crashed out of the point scoring places.
Paul Espargaro has also lost a load of places, so have they come together? It's Marini up the inside, is he of Paul Espargaro? Paul, of course, taking that late apex, and the two meet in the middle there, so Paul had to run off the racetrack altogether, and Marini goes down. Looked like a bit of a racy incident, that, as the two lines merged together into turn 14.
There was almost contact as well as Paul Espargaro made his way back onto the racing line, as Fabio Di Gianantonio was occupying the piece of tarmac that he wanted to seize. Well, this has been easy peasy, hasn't it, for Bagnaia at the front of this sprint. He has not seen another rear tyre so far, and it's unlikely he will do so, barring any late collapse from the Italian. It has been a cruise. He's 2.5 seconds ahead of Alex Marquez.
Aldeguer might yet catch Alex Marquez yet. The 54 closing quickly on the 73. The teammates of his is under investigation. Marini and Paul Espargaro. It's cost both of them any hope of sprint points from here, even though Paul Espargaro is still running. But on the last lap, Aldeguer was 4 tenths quicker than Alex Marquez, and already on this lap, well, actually he's lost a tenth on this lap, so that might well have let Alex Marquez off the hook. But I think Aldeguer has already served enough notice today that if he can get the start tomorrow, he's going to be a genuine contender for victory tomorrow afternoon.
Tech 3 KTM must be pulling their hair out when it comes to Enea Bastianini. If he can only qualify on that RC16, well, we know how good he is in terms of race pace. It's been another rousing recovery through the pack from the beast. 19th now, up to 9th, so he's going to be picking up an unlikely point here. Is Enea, as we follow the two Brazilian Ducatis down the back straight. You can just see there, coming into your picture, is Bagnaia. He's going to be starting the last lap then of what's been a relatively comfortable sprint for Pecco, just as he was really in Motegi right at the start of this flyaway sequence. Only long we go, the last lap underway, 2.2 seconds is Bagnaia's advantage over Alex. Alex in turn has pretty much an exact 1 second lead over Aldeguer. Alex looks like he should comfortably hang on to this second spot.
Won the sprint, of course, here 2 years ago did Alex Marquez, but this second place, he might treasure this more, the silver medal today, than the gold medal he got a couple of years ago. He is 5 kilometres away now from completing a momentous, historic Marquez family double, with Marco Bezzecchi down in 7th place, Bagnaia in with sprint victory, is powerless to deny the 73. He is less than a lap away from finishing runner-up to his big brother in the World Championship.
Yeah, and Brazilian Ducati getting the message, I think, that this will be a fairy tale, a dream, a historic one too. I mean, what other sports have two siblings? It's so rare, certainly in motorsport, where two siblings have risen to the very top and taken first and second in a world championship. What's that flapping around underneath the fairing, underneath the belly fan of Pecco Bagnaia's factory Ducati? Let's just hope it's maybe a little bit of duct tape or something that's not going to cause any late dramas for the Italian as we ride on board then with Alex Marquez. This is going to be such a significant moment, isn't it? For how many years he had to live in the shadow of his brother Mark. So many times people said, well, he's only still in this World Championship because of his surname, but he has stood up and been counted on his with his own right, hasn't he, this year? I think it might just be a bit of heat tape, isn't it?
Well, last time he was leading by this kind of margin, there was smoke coming out of his Ducati, so they don't want any more late heartache or any late nerves. Bagnaia's just got one more corner to go now.
Yeah, and it's been a cruise. It has been a stroll in Sepang in this sprint for the number 63, Pecco Bagnaia. There is that little bit of tape, which I think it's just, that might be the Monster Energy logo, I think, that's just worked itself loose on that factory Ducati. But Bagnaia blasts the sprint here in Sepang as Alex Marquez crosses the line, and we do have history. It's a Mark and Alex 1-2 in the MotoGP World Championship in 2025. What a moment. what a milestone. I'm sure back at home, recovering at his Madrid base, Mark will be watching on proudly. His brother secures second overall in the standings. But Bagnaia, just as he was the Motegi sprint a few weeks ago, completely untouchable, completely unrivaled. It's just hard to believe, isn't it, that 7 days ago Bagnaia was over half a minute behind Marco Bezzecchi in that Phillip Island sprint. Bagnaia over the line then to win his 13th sprint in history. It is the monster logo that's just flapping around underneath the fairing. 2.2 seconds was the margin of victory at the checkered flag. He made it look easy, certainly wasn't, but a great job by Pecco Bagnaia. He acknowledges Alex Marquez having taken second in the standings, and it's another Gresini Ducati double podium. Another brilliant ride from the back of the second row to third, confirming Aldeguer.
And a double celebration, as you saw, for Gresini. Alex Marquez, the runner-up in the MotoGP World Championship, and he only needed 1 point today to achieve it. He has achieved it. Fermin Aldeguer, the Rookie of the Year in 2025. They've still got a Grand Prix to go tomorrow, where both riders will feel they've got a chance of winning it, but it's celebrations all round at Gresini. Both sides of the box are happy today.
Top independent team rider, Rookie of the Year, second World Championship now. Hang on, this could be an 8-second penalty coming the way of Fermin Aldeguer, which will drop him down to 8th place. He is under investigation for a tyre pressure infringement. Now this will be an 8-second penalty if he is indeed pushed off, and it will put Acosta into the bronze medal position. 54 Aldeguer. Breaking news here in Sepang, under investigation for a potential tyre pressure infringement. The 8-second penalty added to Aldeguer's sprint time will drop him down to 8th.
He will still be the Rookie of the Year, by the way, even with that penalty. So those celebrating with the pink t-shirts in pit lane, that is still going to happen. That will still stand. Yeah, 11 seconds would put him, or 8 seconds would put him 11.1 behind, so he just spotted ahead of Johan Zarco, so I think he'd be 7th, but either way, it would cost him a bronze medal and hand it over to Pedro Acosta. What is in absolutely no doubt, and what is in no debate, is the brilliance of Bagnaia today. They can celebrate at Gresini, even with the potential penalty. Aldeguer is the Rookie of the Year, and Alex Marquez is the championship runner-up. Michele Gresini's with Jack.
Yeah, Michele just finding out that news now. Just firstly, Alex, second today, but more importantly, second in the World Championship. What an achievement that is.
Yeah, another milestone, another 2 milestones to add to our fantastic fairy tale since 2022. So amazing to say that we are second in the World Championship and Rookie of the Year. This is a day to remember.
And for me, as you know, under investigation for the tyre pressure. Any concerns about that? Did you set it low, thinking he was going to have some clear air?
I didn't know yet about the tire pressure, but anyway, we are Rookie of the Year today.
Thanks again, well done.
Yeah, he might take a little bit of the gloss off that brilliant accomplishment by Fermin Aldeguer. Not too much. At the moment though, he's confirmed as the Rookie of the Year. Not confirmed though in that bronze medal position. He will drop down to 8th place behind Marco Bezzecchi if he does get the additional 8 seconds added. They can keep the t-shirts on, then they don't need to get those back in the suitcases overnight here in Sepang. Aldeguer wasn't really in any doubt, was it? He has been so good in this first season. The double podium, his first podiums in MotoGP back in Le Mans. He was on the sprint podium again in Aragon. His second Grand Prix podium came at the Red Bull Ring in Austria, and then of course his first and his breakthrough victory, becoming the second youngest rider in MotoGP history to win a Grand Prix with that magnificent Mandalika victory. But this time around, on the 63 side of the factory Ducati garage, once again it's all smiles as Pecco Bagnaia is victorious in that 10-lap sprint. Nobody saw which way he went, did they?
Whatever he handed Motegi and found here, they wish they could bottle it up and take it around the world with them at Ducati. Whatever it was, it certainly worked today for Pecco Bagnaia, who started the day in qualifying 1, but ends the day in P1.
Just quickly go down to Jack, who's got a bit of an update on the Aldeguer situation.
Yeah, just had a quick word with a member of the team, and they seem fairly confident it should be okay. They had a small issue on the grid, which they think is what's resulted in the tyre pressure warning going off. Obviously, we won't know until after the race, but the team seem fairly confident it should be okay.
Okay, well, fingers crossed as far as the Gresini Racing team are concerned. Marco Bezzecchi, well, that was a pretty good fight. 14th up to 7th place. About as good as it was going to get as far as Bez is concerned.
Sounds like a similar situation to Brno, doesn't it? When we, of course, had the Ducati riders backing off, letting people through. Marc Marquez was then under investigation, potentially losing his sprint win, but everything was A-okay and within the parameters. So let's hope from a Gresini point of view that they are right and that Aldeguer will keep his bronze medal. But given the situation today, Igor had to win the sprint today and Aldeguer scored nothing. And penalty or not, I mean, Aldeguer will be required to be crowned Rookie of the Year.
What is not up for any debates, what is a stone cold certainty, is Pecco Bagnaia was supreme. What a sprint Saturday he has enjoyed here in Sepang. Pole position, and follows it up with a fairly routine victory in that sprint. He got the great start from that pole. Confirmation there. What a year. What a story it has been for the Gresini Ducati squad. A couple of weeks ago, victorious with their 5th rider with Fermin Aldeguer in Mandalika. And what a story it is, not for the team but also for one family from Cervera in Spain, as 2 brothers have fought all their way through to the very top, the pinnacle of their sport. Marc Marquez, already crowned world champion, wasn't he, in Japan a few weeks ago, and now Alex seals a richly deserved 2nd place. A 2nd place which he's held in the standings for much of the season. He did lead, of course, the World Championship after Austin in Texas. He did lead the World Championship once again after the Spanish Grand Prix in the ref. But for the most part, he has been 2nd, and he does feel 2nd here today. An embrace for Fermin Aldeguer. And after that highly dramatic ending to Q1 this morning, it's a dramatic ending to the sprint for our new Rookie of the Year in 2025, Eva Jack.
I mean, huge congratulations, Rookie of the Year in 2025, and a sprint podium to wrap it up. You really had to battle in that one, eventually coming through with that move on Pedro. And just tell us that the dashboard, we've had the warning about the tyre pressure. Have you any concerns that you could get the penalty?
Yeah, today was a good day. At the end, being Rookie of the Year was one of our goals for this season. Today we complete. We were super close in Australia, but with a bad race, for sure. I'm more happy to be here, but yes, also crazy race for the pressure of the front tire. I tried to put on 100%. I thought that the pressure was okay, but was some problem in the dashboard with the electronic. I don't know in that moment if it's confirmed, but we have to be super happy. Thank you to all Gresini team, to Ducati. Thank you to my family. Thank you for all my fan club. And tomorrow we have another chance.
Superb ride, well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, tomorrow he has another chance. He could be right in the mix, you feel. Maybe a lot closer to Bagnaia, Rookie of the Year. Rookie of the Year in 2025 is Fermin Aldeguer. He has shown so much of the promise and potential, which was why Ducati signed him before the start of the 2024 Moto2 World Championship campaign. This was his move for that bronze medal on the inside of fierce Spanish rival Pedro Acosta. Down the brakes into turn 9. Lovely move that by Aldeguer. He made a few moves in that sprint in that very same corner, and that is what confirms him then a Rookie of the Year. As we'll shortly hear from our Sepang sprint winner. Very shortly we're going to hear from a rider who has enjoyed one of the best seasons of his career. He's been a Moto3 and a Moto2 world champion, clearly career highlights, but this has to sit right up there with the best. 2nd confirmed in the world championship behind brother Mark here today in Malaysia. It's Alex Marquez with Jack.
Alex, the fairy tale story is complete. 2nd in the world championship behind your brother Mark. Just tell us how it feels to have pulled off that accomplishment.
Feels nervous. I feel all the nervous during all the race. I wasn't riding on the proper way, you know, really stiff on the bike, just thinking on that. But in the end, you know, We arrived here, it was a really long term, you know, but finally we are here second in the World Championship history with Mar that is at home. So yeah, really happy, and yeah, now we need to enjoy. We have 3 races in front of us to enjoy, to try things for sure for next year, but especially to enjoy. So yeah, I'm super happy.
Incredible achievement. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely, Jack, an absolutely phenomenal, incredible, call it what you want, achievement for Marc and Alex Marquez. What a moment for the brothers, what a moment for the Marquez family. Of course, their father Julio is always inside the paddock there. Mother Rosa, who I'm sure is watching proudly back in Europe as the crowd chants his name. Pecco. Pole position to the sprint victory here in Malaysia. Your sprint winner, Bagnaia, is with Jack.
Well, Pecco, 1 month ago in Japan, I asked you, is Bagnaia back? 1 month later, I'm going to ask exactly the same question. What a ride, what a day. Is Bagnaia back?
I will not answer this time. But in any case, happy. The team is deserving those results, because I think I'm in trouble, but they are in trouble too. To understand the situation is not clear, it's not easy. 1 week ago we were struggling. Today, yesterday I was struggling a bit. Today I'm competitive, so we just need to figure out what this kind of situation is, because I think no one in the past ever feels something like this. So we just need to focus, understand the situation, and try to work like we did this weekend. That I'm trying something different that right now is giving to me more feelings.
Brilliant ride. Congratulations.
A brilliant ride as the curious case of Pecco Bagnaia continues in 2025. This is the moment he crossed the line and took his 2nd sprint victory of the season. It's just unbelievable, isn't it? He was so dominant to win the sprint in Japan, then he was dead last in the sprint in Mandalika, 29 seconds off Marco Bezzecchi, 32 seconds behind the brilliant star last time out in Phillip Island. Yeah, here he is. This is a great moment. What a moment. Marc Marquez on the phone to his father, Julia, there. A kiss from Papa, back to Madrid. Well, I bet Marc's a bit choked up watching this back at home. We miss you, Marc. We can't wait to see you defending that World Championship in 2026. But 2025 will end with 2 brothers, Alex and Marc Marquez, 2nd and 1st in the World Championship. What a story that is. Well, who needs to bring a suit to the awards gala in Valencia for 3rd place? Well, that's going to go all the way down to the last Grand Prix, surely. Bagnaia back in the ascendancy in that battle with Bezzecchi, but just 1 point between the 2 Italians, with 2 full rounds and 1 Grand Prix remaining. 1 point then between Bagnaia and Bezzecchi in that race for 3rd place.
Pedro Acosta probably too far back now to get involved in that battle for 3rd. Although he did finish 4th today, of course, should there be a penalty for Fabien Aldeguer, he could inherit a sprint podium. MotoGP's social media channels, the best place to find out first if indeed Aldeguer does come under any kind of investigation. But for now, let's call it as we see it. 3rd place for Fermin Aldeguer, a 4th sprint podium of the season. All of them have been bronze medals. But this one means a little bit more for Fermin. He is the Rookie of the Year. Whether he gets a penalty or not, he can rest easy knowing that he is the star rookie of 2025. The season, of course, highlighted by that victory in Mandalika, but so many other high points for Fermin Aldeguer, who has such a bright future, still only 20 years of age. But a silver medal, which means more than just a 2nd place today. It means 2nd place overall this season for Alex Marquez. The Marquez family double is complete. Marc the champion, Alex the runner-up. For that family, it does not get any better than that. But for Pecco Bagnaia, he's had his ups, he's had his downs in 2025. He is back up once again from pole position to a 2nd sprint win of the season and back into 3rd place in the World Championship. Pecco Bagnaia, your Sepang sprint winner.
was only the second time in the last 8 sprints that Pecco Bagnaia has scored a point on a Saturday afternoon. Both of them have been victories in a season that continues to ebb and flow, doesn't it, for the 28-year-old Italian. What is crystal clear is when he has a Ducati GP25 underneath him that works, that's compliant, well, it's the brilliant Bagnaia that we've seen over the last 3 or 4 years in MotoGP. The problem with Pecco is that Ducati underneath him is not compliant often enough of late, is it? Thankfully for him though, today was his day. Pole position and the sprint double, and he will try for his second treble in the last 4 Grand Prix in the main event here tomorrow. 20 laps, 3 PM local time, will be lights out to see if Bagnaia can complete another winner double here in Sepang. A lot more business has been concluded in that 10-lap sprint here in Malaysia. Alex Marquez stealing second overall in the standings. Fermin Aldeguer clinching the Rookie of the Year prize. Alex was a relatively lonely second, wasn't it, at the checker flag in that sprint. 2.2 seconds he was behind Bagnaia.
Marc Marquez, by the way, has just posted his congratulations on social media to Alex Marquez, an Instagram story saying, and now what? Cannot ask for anything else. What a story for the Marquez family. Pecco Bagnaia, though, your sprint winner. Once again, much like Imotegi, it's kind of the secondary story. Alex
And I've seen the professionalism develop. I've seen the way the players react to it. I think we've done something special for the game, and long may it
So many good approach shots he hit throughout the course of the week. This was another example. Finishes up making 3 a birdie at 9.
So the celebrations begin at Gracini. What a day for them. Both riders today have achieved their goal for 2025. With Marc Marquez the champion, what was left to complete the perfect 2025 from their family's point of view was for Alex to secure the runner-up spot He has achieved that today. And whatever happens with a tyre pressure investigation, of which we'll have news, of course, later on MotoGP.com and on our social media channels. Fermin Aldeguer in a season where he's now taken 4 sprint podiums, a victory, of course, in the Grand Prix in Indonesia. 3 podiums overall on Sunday afternoons. Fermin Aldeguer is your Rookie of the Year for 2025. Now the pressure's off for Alex Marquez. Marc Marquez's message on congratulations. Few brothers are as close as Marc and Alex. Alex, of course, felt all of those tough, painful years returning from injury with Marc. Of course, Marc has been there through the trials and tribulations of Moto3 and Moto2 and early MotoGP for Alex Marquez. This is their moment to savour the success of being the best 2 riders on planet Earth in 2025. Here are the highlights then of the Sepang sprint. That was the last thing we saw, actually, of Pecco Bagnaia, who blitzed clear at the front of the field. Alex Marquez in no position to attack him into turn 1. That was as good as it got for the 73, really, in terms of winning the sprint. All sorts of action further back. Juan Mir was getting into the action. Quartararo and Morbidelli were side by side, as they were for pretty much the first 2 laps, in fairness. Juan Mir also stuck his nose in at the end of lap 1 as Quartararo fell down to 6th place. Aldeguer was attacking Morbidelli further back as Juan Mir, who was chasing after the podium battle between Marquez and Acosta, he dropped it out of 4th place. Acosta was fading quickly, a familiar story from a KTM point of view, as Aldeguer snatched away the bronze medal. Points battle further back involving Espargaro and Marini came to a head at turn 14. Quite as dramatic as you stood there, involving Lucas' half-brother 10 years ago. We'll move on from that. Bagnaia, though, gloriously clear at the front of the field. It was vintage Bagnaia on this occasion. Fermin Aldeguer, though, he would secure a very comfortable 3rd place, which could still be threatened by a tyre pressure investigation. We'll have news on that later on. Alex Marquez 2nd, which ensures that he will finish 2nd in the World Championship in 2025. Celebrations all round for Cressini, but the last word today goes to the sprint winner. Pecco Bagnaia takes his 2nd sprint win of 2025. Can he back that up by completing his 2nd double of the season in the Malaysian Grand Prix? 20 laps of racing coming up tomorrow, with the pole to Bagnaia going into the Malaysian Grand Prix on a high.
The field down this long run into turn 1. Further back, those contact with Rizarco. A little bit disappointed not to have found more than a 157.440. Is Honda HRC Castrol rider Juan Mir. He'll far away from 7th place. We've seen Mir knocking on the door of the top 3 throughout this weekend. And I think his teammate, Luca Marini, will be really, really frustrated because all weekend, fastest in FP2 this morning was Marini. He looked like he was going to be putting up a real strong challenge for a place in Q2 when he came up on the yellow flags. A milliseconds away from the yellow flags being cleared for Fermin Aldeguer's late crash at turn 4 in Q1 when Marini was on a lap that looked like it could put him into Q2. Marini had to shut off, he had to roll out of it, and that left him outside of the top 2, 13th on the grid for Marini, and that is, well, not what we expected. He has got a lot more potential than that 13th spot on the RC213V.
He was the big victim of so many heavyweights being qualifying 1 in the first place. Of course, we had some rain interrupt practice yesterday afternoon, which left the final 5 minutes of practice, essentially a mini qualifying session, which the likes of Bagnaia, Aldeguer, Bezzecchi and Marini found themselves on the wrong side of, and unfortunately only 2 could advance. So Marini found himself, unfortunately, standing while the music stopped, with Pecco Bagnaia and Fermin Aldeguer occupying those 2 final places in qualifying 2, and just need to look at how Q2 finished to see how that can transform a weekend. Bagnaia on the front row of the grid, Aldeguer on the second row, and Marini having his work cut out just to get into the points this afternoon on row 5.
Lowest qualifying in 7, the Austrian Grand Prix at the Red Bull Ring for Marini shows how strong his improvement has been of late on the Honda. Alex Rins, only the 4th time this year, he's going to be starting inside the top 10 on the factory Yamaha. He was 10th fastest with a 157.945, 1 place ahead of fellow Yamaha star Jack Miller. Of course, on the front row of the grid this time last weekend in front of his home crowd was Thomas Fargo, who completed the 12-strong lineup in this morning. Q2 continuing to get beside for the absent Maverick Vinales. The 23 riders will come to the grid for this Tissot sprint over 10 laps, including Augusto Fernandez, of course, a bit of housekeeping. He is wildcarding once again for Yamaha on the development new V4 powered YZR M1. Unfortunately for Fernandez, after a couple of crashes so far this weekend, he is actually at the back of this 23 strong grid, just behind Michele Pirro, who steps in once again for Marc Marquez.
Many Aussies have made their way here to cheer on Jack Miller. He's on the 4th row of the grid, not quite the same pitch heights of Philip Island a week ago when he put his Pramac Yamaha on the front row of the grid. Miller was in the top 3 yesterday, but the pace was so hot in qualifying on today. Miller got himself into the 157s, and unfortunately Bagnaia did a 57 flat to take pole position. So Jack Miller on a 4th row of the grid, which features a fellow Yamaha rider in Alex Rins and the aforementioned Paul Spargaro. And our top 2 make their way towards the final corner. The next time they approach that particular turn 15, they'll be going a darn sight faster than they are now.
First time in 8, Miller not really capitalising on that direct spot in the Q2. First time since Brno, he'd advanced straight into our second qualifying session, worked with Miller for the middle of that 4th row of the grid. A couple of KTMs have been suffering so far this weekend. Brad Binder finds himself stuck right down the order in 18th place. He's not qualified inside the top 10 in the last 9 Grand Prix. He's been in Q1 in 15 of our 20 Grand Prix so far this season. And a former Sepang winner in MotoGP, of course, Anea Bastianini. Well, he's suffering once again on another KTM. He's 1 place behind Binder. Only Chandra Salvadori Pirro and Augusto Fernandez have qualified behind the beast.
So it feels like a customary pole position for Pecco Bagnaia, doesn't it? Malaysia, 3 in 3 years, but it's certainly been a different kind of route to pole position this year than it has been in some previous campaigns. It's been such an up and down flyaway stretch. It's been up and down season really, since the second half of it for Pecco Bagnaia. His form reads like a lie detector test. But he's on pole position is that much of the hard work done, because so often we see him when he's in traffic, unable to attack nor defend. His MO, his task, his strategy in this sprint will surely be to try and get out front and try and pull out a gap, as he did with such great success in Motegi.
He's only won 1 sprint so far this year, has Pecco Bagnaia. That was from pole position at the Mobility Resort Motegi. As we get a quick look through the grid, we'll leave you to view that yourselves at home as we join Alberto Puig, Honda team manager, Juan Mir 7th, Luca Marini with potential surely from 13th on the grid. What potential do those 2 have? Let's get the thoughts of Alberto with Jack.
Yeah, you'd have to say a frustrating Saturday morning for both Honda guys. Johan and Luca looked extremely fast on race rhythm. Qualifying, I guess, didn't go to plan, Alberto. What's going to be possible here for the pair of them?
Well, yeah, it was a pity to qualify because we frankly expected more, but things are how they are. Only problem of this is, I mean, Joan still because it's third row, but Molucca fifth row is not that easy. But both they got the rhythm and the bikes are more or less working. So let's see. Here it's always tough with this heat. It will not be easy for anyone.
Good luck, Alberto. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks to Honda boss Alberto Bush. That's the frustrating element, isn't it, for HRC going into this sprint with Mir 7th, Marie 13th. As Alberto said, in terms of their race pace, they're as sharp as anybody on this grid. The problem is they just couldn't quite get the job done in time. Attacks a late yellow flag in Q1 undone. The hopes of Marini replaced in that second qualifying session. Pecco Bagnaia. What lies in store for the Italian coming up? I'm sure there was anybody's guess, isn't it, really, given recent form for the 28-year-old Italian. Fermin Aldeguer, well, he had a very eventful Q1, didn't he? Crashing at the back of the garage, but still finds himself on row 2, and with great race pace himself. Let's get the thoughts of Prix. Frankie Carcetti, is it, Jack?
Yeah, just double checking whether we can chat with Frankie, because I know that they've got a lot on down here at the moment. In fact, no, come back to us. We'll hopefully grab Frankie tomorrow. There's a bit going on down here. They're just organising.
No problem, Jack. Well, we'll knock on the door of Grazzini once again tomorrow and see if Frankie Carcetti, normally, to be fair to Frankie, is good enough to talk to Jack on the grid or down in pit lane. Yeah, these are tense high pressure moments, aren't they, in the build up to this Tissot sprint. And Miguel Oliveira working ahead to the Iberian Peninsula once again for our season-ending doubleheader in Portimao and Valencia. It's going to be the winding down of Oliveira's Premier Class career, certainly as a full-time rider, and a big one it is coming up in Portimao in 2 weeks' time. Miguel, 16th on the grid. In fact, he started in that position in 4 of the last 6 Grand Prix.
See the skies over both Gigi Dall'Igna's head. The clouds into the distance do look a little bit threatening. Whether they're going to come over the circuit in the next half an hour or so of the sprint, or whether they're just going to miss us, we'll have to wait and see. The weather has certainly played a role so far in this Malaysian Grand Prix weekend. It absolutely bucketed it down in the final 15 minutes of pre-practice 1 yesterday morning. A lighter shower midway through practice yesterday afternoon, which certainly created some drama and excitement in the final minutes of the practice session, which seeded riders through to Q2. Of course, lighter flag rules do still apply in the Tissot sprint, even if it is only 10 laps. You can never say with certainty that it is going to stay dry. We can now pick up Jack with Frankie Carcetti.
Yeah, thanks to Frankie for chatting to us. Looking this morning, for me, as fast as anybody out there. I guess in the end, he managed to salvage a spot on the second row to give him a chance. What's going to be possible now?
Like you said, I think that's the hardest Q1 I've ever seen since it started. So just to get through that was an achievement. Yeah, we're a bit like always. I think for the longer race, we've definitely got better pace as the laps go on. You know, it's almost like a full attacking qualifier, so we'll see. Most important thing is to get experience for tomorrow and see how high you can finish.
Thanks, Frankie. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. And as always, thanks to Frankie Carcetti for taking the time to speak to us down on the grid. Yeah, Aldeguer, you do feel over the 20 laps in the Grand Prix tomorrow, as he has shown so often this season. Those longer distances which Frankie Carcetti and Aldeguer work so tirelessly towards. You feel that he's going to be a big contender. On the front row of the grid then for just the second time in 2025 is Frankie Morbidelli. Fabio Di Gianantonio, of course, fighting his way through from row 4 to podium in last weekend's Australian Grand Prix. But it was 8th on the grid, as did you, but both the R46 riders look in the mix for the podium. Let's get the thoughts of the boss, on there too, with Jack.
Yeah, firstly, Frankie, he mentioned it in Parc Fermé earlier. What a remarkable turnaround from just a few days ago in Phillip Island, a weekend to forget. Now onto the front row of the grid. You must fancy his chances here.
Yeah, we have to understand why, no? But sometimes these things happen. It's true that last race it was very hard for us, and this race is very fast. So at the moment we have to focus on this race because it was it's a very big opportunity to try to make something important. Of course, the speed race is very important, but also tomorrow.
I imagine looking towards tomorrow, it's a lot of work to do from row 3, but so often he's got the rhythm.
Yeah, it's going to be hard always. Also the same more or less the same thing that happened in Australia, but also we have the pace to try to going up, no? This track maybe is sometimes that it's easy to make overtakes, but it's very hard because of the temperature. We will see what happens also for him tomorrow. Thanks, Pablo. Thank you.
Morbidelli, thanks Jack, thanks to Pablo at the end. So, Morbidelli hunting down what we just did, a 4th ever sprint podium. Twice he's been in the medal ceremony. In 2025 he was 3rd, in Qatar he was 3rd in the Balaton Park sprint. And well, as mentioned, unfortunately you do have to go quite a long way to find a couple of KTM's big stars. Brad Binder there in 18th place. 1 place behind him is 2023 Sepang winner Anaya Bastianini. Another tough weekend so far for Anaya in any session he's participated in so far this weekend. He's not finished higher than 15th. He has not qualified higher than 17th in the last 5 Grand Prix. He really is at the moment finding it super tough to get anything out of a Michelin soft rear tyre in time attack mode is the beast.
Although we do see him generally go forwards when the racing starts. In that last weekend in Australia, nearly scored points, 10th from 20th on the grid before finishing 9th in the main race. So Anaya should move forward, but he can really only move forwards from 19th place on the grid. We heard the words of Frankie Carcetti. This is all about gaining experience for Fermin Aldeguer. Expect more from him in the long race tomorrow. So important to get those 10 laps of information, because it wasn't exactly a straightforward dry practice session yesterday. They did all get some running in pre-practice 2 earlier on this morning, although track temperature is significantly hotter now than it was earlier on today. So a crucial fact-finding mission coming up for me.
2 sprint podiums in the last 3 Grand Prix for Acosta. 3rd over the line in the Bategi sprint, 3rd over the line in the Australian Grand Prix sprint 7 days ago. Down under, getting a real late pep talk there from his crew chief, Paul Trevathan. As I mentioned, just the 1 sprint success so far this year for Pecco Bagnaia, who's trying to keep alive this faint hopes of snatching 2nd place away from Alex Marquez in the championship. 2 Gresini Ducatis inside the top 6 on the grid. Let's get the thoughts to the boss. Michele Massini, Jack.
Yeah, he's got a big grin on his face at the moment. I'm sure you're hoping, Michele, that grin's going to be even bigger in a few laps' time. Alex loves this place. He has been playing catch-up this weekend after a difficult day yesterday. Are you confident you found the right feeling this morning?
Yeah, we confirm this year that in the moment that they count, Alex always shown a great speed, and we achieved this speed throw that is crucial here in Sepang, because he always has the flow, the speed to manage a great race. So I think that today we are able to put both riders on the podium. We will try.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks to Michele Massini. Alex Marquez could not stop finishing on a podium in the sprint in the early part of this season. The first half, he was on the box in the first 10 sprints of the campaign, but only 2 in the last 9 for the number 73. That was in the Red Bull Ring and in Mazzano. Pecco Bagnaia then. Is it hard to predict what's going to happen from the Italian in this 10-lap sprint coming up shortly? What does the boss think? Davide Tarozzi? Who's with Jack?
Davide, I've stopped trying to predict what we're going to see from Pecco weekend to weekend. Now on pole position, is this the best opportunity he's had, well, since Japan, to go out there and take victory?
Yeah, sure it will be tougher than Japan, because I see Alex very tough to beat here. He's really confident on these races, and we see. But you know, as usual, MotoGP is unpredictable.
Good luck. Thank you.
Certainly unpredictable as far as Bagnaia is concerned over the last few weeks or so. Sprint podiums in the first 3 rounds of 2025 for the Italian, but just 3 since. Not too many medals have been going around the neck of Bagnaia since those opening 3 Grand Prix. Just 1 in Jerez, in Mugello, and most recently in Bategi. He does, though, for the 3rd year in a row, find himself at the front of the grid here in Sepang, as the grid then starts to clear away. Fans in front of the main grandstand here, just in front of our comedy box position. Well, they're all on their feet. They are full of expectation, full of anticipation of what lies ahead. What can Fabio Quartararo do? Bitterly disappointed last weekend, wasn't he, Quartararo, to slump from pole position to 7th in the sprint. An even worse plummet in the Grand Prix, pole position to 11th over the line in that qualifying and Sunday battle for Quartararo. Can he hang in there a little bit longer as he heads row 2?
A few starts are filled with as much tension as they are here at Sepang. It is a long old run down to that first corner, rough end of 600 metres from start line to turn 1, and then of course it's a bit of a bottleneck into turn 2. And just think back to last year, Quartararo, Miller and Binder had a nasty collision into there. If you're in the middle of the pack, it's so important to try and stay out of trouble, get through those first 2 corners unscathed and get your sprint up and running.
Alex Rins is starting to shine on that factory Yamaha, straight in the Q2 in the last 3 Grand Prix, and just the 4th time this year he's actually going to start inside the top 10. Rins 10th fastest with a 1:57.945, which was still a fairly big gap of almost 8/10 of a second between himself and his Yamaha colleague Quartararo. As we look then at Acosta, will admit himself he spent too much time on his backside this weekend, already on the floor at turns 1, turns 2 and turn 9. Well, Acosta hasn't shone lately in the sprint format, hasn't he? Mentioned podiums recently in Japan and in Phillip Islands. Well, that's the ride they're all trying to stop. Pecco Bagnaia from pole position. Familiar territory, very familiar territory for the Italian here in Sepang. Nobody ahead of him on circuit here on that long run down to the first corner. Dropped down to 4th place in the World Championship after another horror show last weekend in Phillip Island. The first time all season that Bagnaia has dropped out of the top 3 in the overall standing. 3-minute ball then goes up at the front of the grid. BMW safety car clears at the front. They're going to be lights out and ready for race action in the sprint. 10 laps coming your way in just under 3 minutes time.
Where everybody will be racing the soft rear tyre, which could well be the option tomorrow in the Grand Prix. And that's why the information they get in the sprint could be so useful. An all Ducati front row of the grid. Fermin Aldeguer from the second row of the grid, with Costa and Quartararo for company. But it's all Bologna on the front row.
First time since Ducati's home Grand Prix Mugello. They have 3 bikes on the front row. Frankie Morbidelli then, second front row start of the season in 3rd. Alex Marquez looking for his 2nd sprint success here in Sepang. But can Pecco Bagnaia lead the field home once again from pole position here in Malaysia? So many times in 2025, Pecco Bagnaia, the double MotoGP World Champion, has found himself in a position of uncertainty, struggling for front-end confidence on the Ducati GP25. But here in Malaysia for the 3rd year in a row, he finds himself in pole position and looking like the Pecco Bagnaia of old, the Pecco Bagnaia that absolutely dominated the recent Japanese Grand Prix, where from his last pole position of the season, nobody saw which way the 28-year-old went in both the sprint and the Grand Prix. A great day that was, of course, for the factory Ducati team as Bagnaia cleaned up in Motegi and Marc Marquez was crowned 2025 MotoGP World Champion. No Marquez, though, sadly, for the remainder of the campaign. But without him, we still have an all Ducati front row of the grid. And a victory in this upcoming 10-lap sprint, regardless of what happened with Bagnaia, it will see Alex Marquez take 2nd place in the World Championship. Bagnaia just touring on the outside of the first corner. He's letting the whole field slip through. He drops back in front of the BMW safety car. Looks like it's a deliberate tactic from from Bagnaia. Maybe just thinking about keep that engine cool. Doesn't want to come to pole position too early while he's waiting for the field to mass behind him. Fabio Quattararo, it's the usual tactic from Fabio to drop to the back of the grid as well. So Pecco Bagnaia flying away from pole position for the 27th time in his MotoGP career. Front row starts have been few and far between this season for the Italian. Nevertheless, it has been vintage Bagnaia. It certainly was this morning in that Q2 session where he delivered a 1:57.001 ahead of Alex Marquez and Frankie Morbidelli. Some hard charges with nothing to lose in second on the second row of the grid, led by Quattararo, Acosta and Aldeguer. Acosta's already had 3 crashes so far this weekend on the factory KTM, including one at the first corner in Q2 this morning, which hopefully didn't do any serious damage to Acosta's grid prospects. The runner-up spot then will be secured if Alex ends this sprint 100 points clear of Marco Bezzecchi and Pecco Bagnaia. Marco Bezzecchi got a monumental task. Talk about mountains to climb here in Sepang. The sprint winner in 3 of the last 4, the sprint winner in our last 2 flyway races in Indonesia and in Phillip Island, where he was so far ahead of the pack in both sprints, wasn't he, Ben? Well, he's 14th on the grid in what has been a brutally tough weekend so far for the Diwali factory. Prix, who were right on song in Phillip Island last weekend. 2 bikes on the sprint podium, 2 bikes on the Grand Prix podium with Bezzecchi and Raul Fernandez, our newest Grand Prix winner last time out down under. Well, those 2 now have gone from the head of the grid to the 5th row today. Bez 14th, Fernandez in 15th place. So then, Pecco Bagnaia for just the 3rd time in 2025 finds himself in pole position of his customary rub of the tank on the factory Ducati. Been here before, pole in 2023 and in 2024. Lights out, we're racing in the sprint here then in Malaysia. It's a great start on that pole position by Pecco Bagnaia, who's going to lead the field down this long run into turn 1. Further back, there's nice contact with Zarco and Polispargaro. Acosta's been really strong off the line up into 3rd place from Alex Marquez in 2nd. Alex Rins is going out to dry on the factory Yamaha on the outside of turn 1. He's on the inside going through 2. It looks like Rins has already lost a few places off the line.
Aldeguer getting a bit boxed in there behind Juan Mir, who's made progress on the factory Honda. One of the other KTMs as well. It must be Polispargaro further back, who's attacking Morbidelli up the inside then of Quattararo for 4th place.
That KTM is an absolute missile off the line. Is that Acosta started this sprint in 5th, and immediately as he clicked up through the gearbox on that long one down the first corner, he was up into P3, so it's locked in then behind Bagnaia and Marquez as we go through 6 on lap 1.
Alex Marquez already right up behind Pecco Bagnaia, looking like he wants to make a move in the early stages. Mir was attacking once again. I think that time he's having a go back on Aldeguer, who passed him partway through this first time. They're battling for 6th and 7th ahead of Zarco and Polispargaro.
Good move that by Mir. It looked like it was a good move at least from Mir this time around. Oh, he's going sideways. He's almost speedway style there to get through on Aldeguer. And now around the outside of his fellow Spaniard going through 10 and 11. What a first lap this has been between Mir and Aldeguer. Likewise between Quattararo and Morbidelli. No courting in between the 2 former factory Yamaha teammates.
Yeah, they're getting well and truly stuck in. Morbidelli's now going to be wide through 13, and Quattararo will get the run and him into 14. Quattararo just wants some empty time back, because look at the top 3 breaking clear.
Yeah, well, this lot behind the top 3 are bashing each other up, bashing fairings. Bagnaia, Alex, Marquez and Acosta are checking out at the front of this sprint. Once again, side by side, it's Quattararo, Mir and Morbidelli. Mir's going to the inside line on Quattararo on the brakes into turn 15. Morbidelli goes really wide. Multiple lines going through that final corner. He might pick up a better exit there, Morbidelli, but Mir briefly got through.
And Acosta through, and Alex Marquez out of picture into the final corner 2. Alex Marquez attacking back straight away. That's given Bagnaia a little bit of breathing space at the front.
Yeah, over the line, his advantage was almost half a second anyway, as Alex cuts to a late apex going through turn 1. Mir then a bit busy on that first lap. Mir up into 4th place from 7th on the grid.
And was carving Quartararo up again into turn 2. Mia's now breaking clear for them. Fabio Quartararo could already predict what he's going to be saying at the end of the sprint. Frankie Moore, but yeah, he cost me too much time on that one.
Philip Island winner, Raul Fernandez, is having a nightmare. He's down in 17th place at the moment. There's been no great forward progress made by the winner of our last 2 sprints, Bezzecchi, who's up in 13. As Aldeguer on the inside of Quartararo, down through that scary left-hander of turn 5. That's confidence from Aldeguer. Brilliant move.
So it was Alex Marquez going wide into the final corner that let Acosta through, and then Alex, of course, took it back again, got himself a better run, not that he intended it, on the main straight. So that's why Bagnaia pulled out that half second at the end of the first lap. But Fabio Quartararo and Frankie Morbidelli, they were battling for 4th at the start of the race. They're now battling for 5th and coming under pressure from Aldeguer, Zarco and Pol Espargaro too.
Just look how much pace, and we knew he got rhythm that Mia has got in the early part of this